Memento Mori is not about fearing death. It is about using death as a lens. The Stoics believe that the mind which forgets it is mortal becomes a slave to trivial things. Bad traffic. A rude email. A text someone did not return. These things only feel enormous because we live as if we have infinite afternoons to waste being upset by them. Marcus Aurelius writes this in Meditations, Book 2, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Read it again. He is not being dramatic. He is being practical. He is telling himself, the Emperor of Rome, that this conversation, this decision, this resentment, could be his last. And if it could be his last, why is he spending it on something petty? Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, sharpens the blade further. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We act as though death is the thing that ends our life. The Stoics taught the opposite. Forgetfulness of death is what ends our life, long before the body actually stops. But here is what nobody tells you about Memento Mori, and we will get to it in a moment, because it is not really a meditation on death at all. It is a meditation on attention. Picture Marcus Aurelius. The most powerful man alive. Armies obey him. Senators flatter him. Gold flows toward him. And yet every morning, before the sun is fully up, he sits and writes to himself, in Greek, sentences like, soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you. He is reminding the emperor that the emperor is temporary. Roman tradition tells us that when a victorious general was paraded through the streets in a triumph, a slave was positioned behind him in the chariot. Whatever else that slave did, his job included one task, to lean toward the general's ear, again and again, and whisper, Respice post te. Hominum te esse memento. Look behind you. Remember you are only a man. The whole city is cheering, the world is at your feet, and someone is whispering, you will die. Epictetus, born a slave, crippled by a brutal master, came at it from the other side. In his discourses he tells his students to think of death not when they are powerful, but when they are afraid. I must die. Must I then die groaning too? I must be imprisoned. Must I then also lament? I must go into exile. Does anyone keep me from going with a smile? Death, for Epictetus, was not the worst thing. The worst thing was arriving at death having never actually lived as a free human being. And Seneca, perhaps the most haunting of all, wrote a letter to his friend Paulinus titled On the Shortness of Life. He says most people live as though they have all the time in the world, treating their days like they are pulling coins from an endless purse. Then suddenly, the purse is empty, and they realize they spent their whole life preparing to live and never actually lived. That is the ancient context. 3 men, an emperor, a slave, and a senator, all arriving at the same conclusion from completely different stations in life. The next part is where most people misunderstand this teaching entirely. Here is the secret the Stoics understood. Memento Mori is not a depressing thought. It is a clarifying one. When you remember you will die, 3 things become impossible to ignore. First, most of what upsets you is not actually important. The coworker who took credit for your idea. The friend who left you on read. The mistake you made in a meeting last Tuesday. Hold any of these next to your own death and watch it shrink. Not disappear. Shrink. To its actual size. Marcus tells himself in Meditations, how much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks. Your attention is your one finite currency. Death is the reminder. Second, the people you love are also dying. Epictetus says something almost unbearable in his discourses. He tells a father, when you kiss your child goodnight, remind yourself that the child is mortal. Not to be cruel. To be present. Because the parent who forgets this is the parent who is irritated by bedtime, distracted at dinner, half listening on the phone. The parent who remembers, holds the moment differently. Third, you have less time than you think to become who you said you would become. The book unwritten. The call unmade. The apology never offered. Seneca, while we are postponing, life speeds by. So how do you actually practice this? Not as a thought, but as a discipline. The Stoic exercise is simple and it takes 60 seconds. Each morning, before you reach for your phone, sit up and say one sentence to yourself, today could be the last. Not as a threat. As a frame. Then ask one question. If today is the last, what is one thing I will not waste it on? An argument I do not need to win. A grudge I do not need to carry. A truth I have been avoiding telling someone I love. That is the practice. One sentence. One question. 60 seconds. Done by emperors, slaves, and senators for 2,000 years. Drop this in the comments. What is the one thing you would stop wasting your time on, if you knew today was your last? Be honest. The Stoics were. CTA, 12 to 13 minutes. If this gave you even one moment of clarity, subscribe. This channel is a slow, deliberate walk through the wisdom of Marcus, Seneca, and Epictetus, one idea at a time. Every subscriber is one more person choosing the examined life over the distracted one. Outro, 13 to 15 minutes. The Stoics did not meditate on death because they were afraid of it. They meditated on death because they refused to be afraid of life. Today, before the day swallows you, pause for one breath and remember. You are mortal. Therefore this hour is sacred. Therefore this conversation matters. Therefore the small kindness, the honest word, the unfinished work, all of it deserves your full presence now. Not later. Now. If this resonated, my next video unpacks the one practice Marcus Aurelius did every single evening before sleep, and once you see it, the morning meditation we just covered finally clicks into place. Memento Mori. Two Latin words that quietly shaped the most powerful minds in Rome. In this video we explore why Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus believed that meditating on death every single day was not morbid, but the very foundation of a free and meaningful life. You will hear the exact passages they wrote, see how an emperor, a slave, and a senator each arrived at the same truth, and learn the simple 60-second morning practice that turns the fear of mortality into clarity, presence, and courage. If you have ever felt that your days are slipping by while you wait for life to begin, this is the Stoic answer. Midnight the truth. Marcus wrote every morning 0:30. What Memento Mori really means. 2 o'clock the Stoic foundation in Meditations, and Seneca. 4 o'clock the emperor, the slave, and the whispered warning. 6 o'clock 3 things death makes impossible to ignore. 7:30 the 60-second morning practice. 9 o'clock one final Stoic thought. Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius. Memento Mori.